The water shimmered under the late afternoon sun, a mirror of liquid gold that seemed to whisper secrets. Ellie Harper, barely 21, stood at the edge of the pool, her toes curling against the warm concrete, heart pounding with a mix of nerves and thrill. She wasn't here just to swim. She was here to tell her best friend, Mia, the truth she'd buried for years. Ellie glanced at Mia, who was adjusting her goggles with that effortless grace she always had. Mia's long black hair was pulled into a messy bun, strands escaping to frame her face, and her blue swimsuit hugged her frame like it was made for her. At 20, Mia was the kind of person who lit up any room, or in this case, the sleepy community pool in their small Oregon town. They'd been inseparable since high school, sharing secrets, dreams, and late-night drives to nowhere. But there was one secret Ellie had never shared. She was in love with Mia. Not just a crush, not just admiration, but a bone-deep, heart-wrenching love that made every moment with her both heaven and torture. Today was the day. Ellie had promised herself she'd confess right here, at the place where they'd spent countless summers splashing and laughing. The pool was nearly empty, just a few kids in the shallow end and a lifeguard dozing under an umbrella. It felt like the universe had given her this moment, this quiet golden hour. She took a deep breath, her hands trembling as she prepared to speak, when a shadow fell across the water. A woman strode into the pool area, her presence like a sudden storm. She was older, maybe 28, with fiery red hair cascading over her shoulders and a confidence that seemed to shift the air around her. Her black swimsuit was sleek, her stride purposeful, and her eyes sharp and green, locked onto Ellie and Mia with an intensity that made Ellie's stomach twist. She carried a towel slung over one shoulder, but there was something about her, something magnetic and unsettling, that made it impossible to look away. "Who's that?" Mia whispered, her voice low, curious. She nudged Ellie, her arm brushing against hers, sending a familiar jolt through Ellie's nerves. "No idea," Ellie murmured, but her eyes stayed on the stranger. The woman dropped her towel on a chair and dove into the pool with a grace that made the water barely ripple. When she surfaced, she shook her hair out, water droplets catching the light like tiny prisms, and glanced their way again. This time she smiled, a small, knowing curve of her lips that felt like a challenge. Ellie's heart sank. Her perfect moment, the one she'd rehearsed 100 times in her head, was slipping away. She wanted to grab Mia's hand, pull her aside, and spill everything before she lost her nerve. But the stranger's presence felt like an intrusion, a disruption of the fragile courage she'd built. "Let's swim," Mia said, oblivious to Ellie's turmoil. She grabbed Ellie's wrist and tugged her toward the water, her laugh bright and infectious. Ellie followed, her mind racing. She couldn't shake the feeling that the stranger was watching them, that her arrival wasn't random. As they slipped into the cool water, Ellie tried to focus on Mia, on the way her eyes sparkled when she laughed, on the warmth of her hand still lingering on Ellie's skin. But the stranger swam closer, her strokes smooth and deliberate, cutting through the water like she owned it. Ellie's confession, so carefully planned, felt like it was drowning before it could even surface. The pool wasn't crowded, but it felt smaller with the stranger there. She didn't speak, didn't introduce herself, but her presence was loud. She floated nearby, her gaze flickering between Ellie and Mia, as if she could see the unspoken tension between them. Ellie's chest tightened. Was she imagining it, or was there something deliberate in the way the woman watched them? Mia, ever fearless, swam toward the deep end, calling over her shoulder, "Come on, Ellie, race me." Ellie forced a smile and followed, but her eyes kept darting to the stranger. Something about her felt familiar, though Ellie was certain they'd never met. It was like the woman carried a story in her eyes, one that Ellie wasn't sure she wanted to hear. As they reached the deep end, Mia splashed Ellie playfully, her grin wide. "You're so slow today. What's up with you?" Ellie opened her mouth to answer, to maybe, just maybe, say the words she'd been holding back. But before she could, the stranger's voice cut through the air, smooth and confident. "You two look like you've got history," she said, treading water a few feet away. Her voice was warm, but there was an edge to it, like she knew more than she was letting on. Mia turned, curious, her smile still bright. "Yeah, we go way back. You new around here?" The stranger's smile widened, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Just passing through," she said. "But I'm good at reading people. And you two, you've got a story, don't you?" Ellie's blood ran cold. The stranger's words felt like a spotlight, exposing the secret she hadn't even voiced yet. Mia laughed, brushing it off, but Ellie couldn't shake the feeling that this woman's arrival was about to change everything. As the sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across the pool, Ellie realized she wasn't just fighting her own fear anymore. Something about this stranger, her confidence, her cryptic words, felt like a spark that could ignite the fragile world she and Mia had built. And Ellie wasn't sure if she was ready for the fire. The water felt colder now, or maybe it was just Ellie's nerves. She clung to the edge of the pool, her fingers gripping the rough tile as Mia chatted with the stranger. The woman introduced herself as Lila, her voice carrying a faint southern drawl that softened her sharp edges. "Just here for the summer," she said, leaning back in the water, her red hair fanning out like a halo. "This town's got a nice vibe. Quiet. Perfect for new beginnings." Mia, always quick to make friends, grinned. "You picked the right spot. This pool's basically our second home." She splashed water at Ellie, trying to pull her into the conversation. "Right, Elle?" Ellie nodded, forcing a smile, but her mind was elsewhere. Lila's words, "new beginnings," echoed in her head, stirring a mix of curiosity and unease. What did she mean? And why did her gaze keep lingering on Ellie, as if she could see straight through her? Lila swam closer, her movements fluid, almost predatory. "So what's your deal?" she asked, her eyes locked on Ellie. "You're awfully quiet for someone with so much to say." Ellie's heart skipped. It was like Lila had reached into her chest and pulled out her secret, holding it up to the fading sunlight. "I'm just enjoying the water," she stammered, her voice barely above a whisper. Mia laughed, oblivious to the tension. Ellie's always in her head. She's the dreamer type. She swam to Ellie's side, her shoulder brushing against hers, and Ellie's skin tingled at the contact. For a moment it was just them again, like it always had been. But Lila's presence loomed, a shadow in the water. "Let's play a game," Lila suggested, her tone light but her eyes gleaming with something unreadable. "Truth or dare. Pool edition." Mia's face lit up. "Oh, I'm in. Ellie, you game." Ellie hesitated. She hated games like this. Too much risk of exposure, too many chances for her carefully guarded walls to crumble. But Mia's excitement was contagious, and Ellie didn't want to seem like a killjoy. "Sure," she said, her voice tighter than she intended. Lila went first, daring Mia to do a cannonball from the diving board. Mia, never one to back down, climbed out of the pool, water streaming down her skin, and sprinted to the board. Her laugh echoed as she launched herself into the air, tucking her knees and hitting the water with a splash that sent waves rippling. Ellie couldn't help but smile, her heart swelling at the sight of Mia's joy. "Your turn," Lila said, her voice pulling Ellie back. "Truth or dare?" Ellie's throat tightened. She wanted to pick dare, to avoid any questions that might dig too deep, but something in Lila's gaze made her feel like there was no safe choice. "Truth," she said, regretting it instantly. Lila tilted her head, her smile sharp. "What's the one thing you're most afraid of telling someone you love?" The question hit like a punch. Ellie's breath caught, her eyes darting to Mia, who was swimming back toward them, still laughing from her jump. The air felt thick, the water heavy around her. I don't know," she lied, her voice shaking. Lila raised an eyebrow, clearly not buying it. "Come on, Ellie. Everyone's got something." Mia reached them, oblivious to the tension. "What did I miss? What's the question?" Ellie's panic spiked. She couldn't answer this, not now, not with Mia right there. "It's nothing," she said quickly, forcing a laugh. "My turn, right?" But Lila didn't let it go. "You didn't answer," she said, her voice soft but insistent. "You picked truth. So tell us." Ellie's mind raced. She could lie again, make something up, but Lila's eyes were like a trap, pinning her in place. And Mia was watching now, her curiosity piqued, her head tilted in that way that always made Ellie's heart ache. "I'm afraid of losing someone," Ellie said finally, the words spilling out before she could stop them. It wasn't the whole truth, but it was close enough to hurt. Of saying something that changes everything and losing them. Mia's expression softened, her hand reaching out to touch Ellie's arm under the water. "You're not gonna lose me, Elle," she said, her voice gentle. "No matter what." Ellie's chest ached, the weight of her unspoken love pressing down harder than ever. She wanted to believe Mia. Wanted to trust that her confession wouldn't break them. But Lila's gaze was still on her, sharp and knowing, and Ellie couldn't shake the feeling that this game wasn't just a game. As the sun sank below the horizon, the pool lights flickered on, casting an eerie glow across the water. Lila suggested another round, but Ellie's heart wasn't in it. She needed to get Mia alone to say what she'd come here to say before Lila, or her own fear, derailed everything. But Lila wasn't done. As they climbed out of the pool, dripping and shivering in the evening air, she leaned close to Ellie and whispered, "You should tell her. Before someone else does." Ellie froze, her towel slipping from her hands. Lila's words were a warning, a promise, a spark in the dark. And as Mia called her over to grab their things, Ellie realized this summer, this pool, this moment, it was all about to change. The air felt heavier as Ellie and Mia walked to the locker room, their flip-flops slapping against the wet tiles. Lila's whisper lingered in Ellie's mind like a splinter, sharp and impossible to ignore. "You should tell her. Before someone else does." What did that even mean? Did Lila know something? Or was she just playing mind games? Ellie's stomach churned with unease, but she pushed it down, focusing on Mia's voice as she rambled about the cannonball she'd done. "You should have seen your face when I jumped," Mia teased, nudging Ellie with her elbow. "You looked like you thought I was gonna drown or something." Ellie forced a laugh, her heart still racing from Lila's words. "You're too dramatic for your own good," she said, trying to keep her voice light. But her eyes kept darting to the locker room entrance, half expecting Lila to appear again, her red hair and sharp gaze cutting through the dim light. The locker room was quiet, the hum of fluorescent lights the only sound besides their footsteps. Mia tossed her towel on a bench and started rummaging through her bag for dry clothes. Ellie stood nearby, her hands fidgeting with the strap of her swimsuit. This was her chance. Alone with Mia, no Lila, no distractions. She opened her mouth, the words "I love you" hovering on her tongue, but they caught in her throat, heavy and immovable. "Hey, that Lila chick's kinda intense, huh?" Mia said, pulling a t-shirt over her head. "Like she's cool, but I don't know, she's got this vibe. Like she knows stuff." Ellie's pulse quickened. "Yeah," she said, her voice barely audible. "She's different." Mia turned, her eyes narrowing slightly. "You okay, Elle? You've been weird all day." Ellie's heart pounded. This was it. She could brush it off, change the subject, keep hiding like she always had. Or she could take the leap, risk everything and tell Mia the truth. Her hands shook as she stepped closer, the air between them charged with something unspoken. "Mia, I need to tell you something," she started, her voice trembling. It's about how I feel. About you." Mia's eyes widened, her hands pausing on the zipper of her bag. For a moment the world seemed to stop, the hum of the lights fading into silence. Ellie's breath hitched, her confession teetering on the edge of her lips, when the locker room door swung open with a creak. Lila stepped inside, her towel draped over her shoulder, her expression unreadable. "Did I interrupt something?" she asked, her tone light but her eyes sharp, darting between Ellie and Mia. Ellie's courage evaporated, her words dissolving into the air. "No," she said quickly, stepping back. "We were just talking." Mia frowned, her gaze lingering on Ellie, but she didn't push. "Yeah, just catching up," she said, her voice softer now, uncertain. Lila smirked, dropping her towel on a bench. "You two are cute," she said, her words dripping with something Ellie couldn't quite place. Amusement, maybe, or challenge. But you know, secrets don't stay secrets forever. Ellie's stomach dropped. It was like Lila was peeling back her skin, exposing every hidden thought, every fear. Mia laughed, brushing it off as she always did. But Ellie could feel the weight of Lila's words settling over them like a storm cloud. As they left the locker room, the night air cool against their skin, Ellie's mind was a whirlwind. She'd been so close to telling Mia, so close to breaking free of the cage she'd built around her heart. But Lila's interruption, her cryptic comments, it was like she was toying with them, pulling strings Ellie couldn't see. They walked to Mia's beat-up Honda, parked under a flickering streetlight. Mia tossed her bag in the back, her usual energy dimmed. "You sure you're okay?" she asked, leaning against the car, her eyes searching Ellie's face. Ellie wanted to scream, to spill everything, to tell Mia that she'd loved her since they were 16, that every laugh, every touch, every shared moment had only deepened that love. But the memory of Lila's gaze held her back, a warning she couldn't shake. "I'm fine," she lied, her voice cracking. "Just tired." Mia didn't look convinced, but she nodded, climbing into the driver's seat. "Okay, but you know you can tell me anything, right?" Ellie nodded, her throat tight. "Yeah, I know." As they drove through the quiet streets, the town's lights blurring past, Ellie's mind kept circling back to Lila. There was something about her, something that felt like a puzzle piece that didn't fit. She wasn't just a stranger passing through. She knew too much, saw too much. And Ellie couldn't shake the feeling that Lila's arrival was tied to the secret she'd been too afraid to share. Back at her apartment, Ellie lay awake, staring at the ceiling, her phone buzzing with a text from Mia. "Had fun today. You sure you're okay?" Ellie's fingers hovered over the screen, wanting to type the truth, but she couldn't. Not yet. Not with Lila's words echoing in her head, and the fear of what might happen if she finally let her heart speak. The next morning, Ellie woke to the sound of rain tapping against her window, a gray haze settling over the town. Her dreams had been restless, filled with flashes of Mia's smile and Lila's piercing gaze. She couldn't shake the feeling that yesterday at the pool had been a turning point, a moment where her carefully controlled world had started to crack. She met Mia at their favorite diner, a cozy spot with checkered floors and coffee that tasted like home. Mia was already there, her hair still damp from the rain, her smile bright but tinged with something new. Concern maybe, or curiosity. "You look like you didn't sleep," she said, sliding a mug of coffee across the table. Ellie shrugged, wrapping her hands around the warm mug. "Just a lot on my mind." Mia leaned forward, her elbows on the table, her eyes soft but searching. "Elle, you've been off since yesterday. What's going on? Is it that Lila girl? She was kinda pushy, huh?" Ellie's heart thudded. She wanted to tell Mia everything, about her feelings, about the way Lila's words had rattled her, about the fear that kept her silent. But the diner was too public, the words too heavy. "She's just intense," Ellie said, dodging the real issue. "I don't know what her deal is." Mia nodded, but her expression said she wasn't fully buying it. They ate in silence for a while, the clink of forks and the hum of the rain filling the space between them. Ellie's mind kept drifting back to Lila's whisper. "Before someone else does." Felt like a threat, but why? What did Lila know, and why did she care? After breakfast, they decided to head back to the pool. The rain had stopped, leaving the air fresh and the sky a pale, washed-out blue. Ellie wasn't sure why she agreed. Maybe because the pool was their place, a sanctuary of memories, or maybe because she hoped to reclaim the moment she'd lost yesterday. But as they arrived, her stomach twisted. Lila was there, sitting on the lifeguard chair, her red hair bright against the gray sky. "Back for more," Lila called, her voice teasing but her eyes sharp. She hopped down, her movements graceful, almost deliberate, and walked toward them. Mia waved, her friendliness undeterred. "Didn't expect to see you here again," she said, tossing her bag onto a chair. "You really like this place, huh?" Lila's smile was enigmatic. "It's got character," she said, her gaze flickering to Ellie. "And I like a good story." Ellie's skin prickled. She wanted to ask Lila what she meant, to demand answers, but Mia was already pulling her toward the water. "Come on, Elle, let's do laps. Bet I can beat you this time." They swam, the rhythm of their strokes steadying Ellie's nerves, but Lila's presence was a constant distraction. She didn't join them in the water this time, just watched from the sidelines, her expression unreadable. Ellie tried to focus on Mia, on the way her laughter echoed across the pool, but Lila's words kept circling in her head. After their swim, as they dried off, Lila approached again. "You two are close," she said, her tone casual but her eyes locked on Ellie. Ever think about what it'd be like to be closer? Mia laughed, tossing her towel over her shoulder. We're already like sisters, she said, oblivious to the weight of the question. But Ellie felt it like a stone in her chest. Lila wasn't just talking about friendship. She was poking at the truth Ellie hadn't dared to voice. Sometimes, Lila said, her voice low, the line between friends and something more, it's thinner than you think. She turned and walked away, leaving Ellie frozen, her heart pounding. Mia frowned, watching Lila go. What's with her? She's so cryptic. Ellie swallowed hard, her throat dry. Yeah, she managed. Cryptic. That night Ellie couldn't sleep again. She sat on her couch, scrolling through old photos of her and Mia. Graduation, road trips, lazy summer days at the pool. In every picture, Mia's smile was the sun, and Ellie was the shadow, always close, always watching. She wanted to be brave, to cross that thin line Lila had mentioned, but the fear of losing Mia was a chain around her heart. Her phone buzzed with a new text, not from Mia this time, but from an unknown number. Meet me at the pool tomorrow. Alone. Ellie's breath caught. Lila. How did she even have her number? And why did she want to meet? The message felt like a summons, a challenge, and Ellie wasn't sure if she was ready to face it. But one thing was clear. Lila wasn't just a stranger. She was a catalyst, and whatever happened next would change everything. Ellie stood outside the pool gate the next morning, her hands shoved deep in her jacket pockets, her breath visible in the chilly air. The text from Lila had kept her up all night, her mind spinning with questions. Why did Lila want to meet alone? What did she know? And why did Ellie feel like her entire world was balancing on the edge of this moment? The pool was closed, the gate locked, but Lila was already there, leaning against the fence, her red hair catching the weak morning light. She looked relaxed, almost too relaxed, like she'd been waiting for this. You came, she said, her voice smooth, her eyes scanning Ellie with that same unsettling intensity. How'd you get my number? Ellie asked, her voice sharper than she intended. Lila shrugged, a small smile playing on her lips. Small town. People talk. She pushed off the fence, stepping closer. But that's not why I asked you here. Ellie's heart raced. Then why? Lila tilted her head, studying her. Because I see you, Ellie. I see the way you look at Mia. The way you hold back. And I'm guessing you've been holding back for a long time. Ellie's breath caught, her face burning. You don't know me, she said, but her voice shook, betraying her. I don't have to, Lila said. I've been where you are. In love with someone who doesn't see it. Too scared to say anything because it might ruin everything. Sound familiar? Ellie's knees felt weak. She wanted to deny it, to run, but Lila's words were a mirror, reflecting every fear, every hope she'd buried. Why do you care? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Lila's smile faded, her expression softening. Because I wasted years not saying what I felt. And I don't want you to make the same mistake. She paused, her eyes searching Ellie's. Mia's special. You know that. But she's not a mind reader. If you don't tell her, someone else might beat you to it. Ellie's stomach twisted. Someone else. Lila didn't answer right away. She looked out at the pool, the water still and gray under the cloudy sky. This town's small, but it's not empty. People notice Mia. She's got that spark. And sparks attract. Ellie's mind flashed to Mia's laugh, her easy charm, the way everyone seemed to gravitate toward her. Was Lila hinting at herself? Or someone else? The thought of Mia with anyone else, anyone who wasn't her, felt like a knife in her chest. What do you want from me? Ellie asked, her voice raw. Lila turned back to her, her gaze steady. I want you to be honest. With yourself. With her. You're running out of time, Ellie. Summer's almost over, and so's your excuse to keep hiding. Ellie wanted to argue, to tell Lila to mind her own business, but the truth in her words was undeniable. She'd been hiding for years, letting fear dictate her life. And now with Lila here stirring things up, it felt like the universe was forcing her hand. Go talk to her, Lila said, stepping back. Today. Before you lose your nerve again. Ellie watched as Lila walked away, her figure disappearing into the morning mist. She felt exposed, raw, like Lila had stripped away every layer of protection she'd built. But there was something else too, a spark of resolve, a tiny flame of courage she hadn't felt before. She pulled out her phone and texted Mia. "Can we meet? Just us. I need to talk." Her finger hovered over the send button, her heart pounding. This was it. No more hiding. She pressed send, and the weight of that simple action felt like a tidal wave. Mia replied almost instantly, "Sure, I'll park in an hour?" The park was quiet when Ellie arrived, the swings creaking in the breeze, the grass still damp from the morning rain. Mia was already there, sitting on a bench, her hands wrapped around a to-go coffee cup. She looked up as Ellie approached, her smile warm but cautious. "What's up?" she asked, patting the bench beside her. Ellie sat, her heart hammering so loud she was sure Mia could hear it. I need to tell you something," she said, her voice trembling. "It's big, and I'm scared it's gonna change everything." Mia's brow furrowed, her hand reaching out to touch Ellie's. "Hey, you're freaking me out. Just say it. You know I'm here no matter what." Ellie took a deep breath, her eyes locked on Mia's, the words she'd held back for years clawing their way out. "Mia, I love you. Not like a friend. Not like a sister. I'm in love with you. I have been for years." The world seemed to stop. Mia's eyes widened, her hand still on Ellie's, but she didn't pull away. For a moment there was only silence, the weight of Ellie's confession hanging between them like a fragile thread. And then Mia spoke, her voice soft, almost a whisper. "Ellie, I didn't know." The park bench felt like the edge of the world and Ellie was falling. Mia's words, "I didn't know," hung in the air, soft but heavy, like a stone dropped into still water. Ellie's heart pounded, her hands trembling as she waited for Mia to say something, anything, that would tell her what came next. Mia's hand was still on hers, warm and steady, but her eyes were distant, searching the ground as if the answers were written in the grass. "Ellie," she said finally, her voice gentle but uncertain, I don't know what to say. This is a lot." Ellie's stomach sank, but she nodded, forcing herself to stay calm. "I know. I'm sorry. I couldn't keep it in anymore." Mia looked up, her eyes meeting Ellie's, and there was something there, confusion, yes, but also a flicker of something deeper, something Ellie couldn't quite name. "You felt this way for years?" Mia asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Ellie nodded, her throat tight. "Since high school. Maybe longer. Every time we're together, it's like you're the only thing that matters. And I was so scared to tell you because I didn't want to lose you." Mia's fingers tightened around Ellie's hand, just for a moment, before she let go and leaned back, her expression unreadable. "You're not gonna lose me," she said. But there was a hesitation in her voice, a crack that made Ellie's heart ache. I need time to process this, okay? I don't even know what I'm feeling right now." Ellie nodded again, her chest tight with a mix of relief and dread. She'd done it. She'd said the words, crossed the line she'd been too afraid to touch. But Mia's uncertainty was a new kind of pain, sharp and unfamiliar. They sat in silence for a while, the park around them quiet except for the occasional bird or rustle of leaves. Ellie wanted to fill the silence, to beg Mia to feel the same, but she knew it wasn't fair. Mia deserved time, space, honesty, and Ellie had to trust that their friendship, their bond, could withstand this. As they parted ways, Mia hugged her, a quick, tight embrace that felt both familiar and foreign. "I'll call you, okay?" Mia said, her voice soft. "I just need a little time." Ellie watched her walk away, her figure growing smaller against the backdrop of the park, and felt a strange mix of freedom and fear. She'd been honest finally, but the future was a blank page, and she had no idea what would be written on it. That evening, Ellie went back to the pool, drawn to it like a moth to a flame. It was closed again, the water still and dark under the evening sky, but she sat by the edge, her feet dangling over the side. The quiet was soothing, a stark contrast to the chaos in her heart. She didn't expect to see Lila, but there she was, sitting on the lifeguard chair again, her silhouette sharp against the fading light. "Told her, didn't you?" Lila said, her voice carrying across the empty pool. Ellie's head snapped up. How did you? Lila hopped down, walking over with that same effortless grace. It's written all over your face, she said, sitting beside Ellie. So? How'd it go? Ellie sighed, her eyes on the water. I told her I love her. She didn't know what to say. She needs time. Lila nodded, her expression softer than Ellie had ever seen it. That's a start, she said. Takes guts to say it. Most people never do. Ellie looked at her, searching for answers. Why are you so invested in this? Why do you care what happens with me and Mia? Lila was quiet for a moment, her gaze distant. I had someone once, she said finally. Someone I loved, but I never told her. She moved on, got married, and I've been carrying that regret ever since. When I saw you and Mia, I saw myself. I saw a chance to push someone else to do what I couldn't. Ellie's throat tightened. For the first time, Lila didn't seem like a mystery or a threat. Just a person carrying her own scars. I'm scared, Ellie admitted, her voice small. What if she doesn't feel the same? What if I've ruined everything? Lila reached out, resting a hand on Ellie's shoulder. You haven't ruined anything. You've been honest. That's more than most people can say. And whatever happens, you'll survive it. You're stronger than you think. Ellie wanted to believe her. But the uncertainty was a weight she couldn't shake. As Lila left, disappearing into the night, Ellie stayed by the pool, her thoughts a tangled mess of hope and fear. She'd taken the leap, but the landing was still out of sight. Days passed, each one heavier than the last. Ellie checked her phone obsessively, waiting for Mia's call, her text, anything to break the silence. The pool, once their sanctuary, felt haunted now. Its empty lanes a reminder of the confession that had changed everything. Ellie went through the motions, work at the local bookstore, dinners with her parents, runs through the park, but her heart was elsewhere, tethered to Mia and the unanswered question of what came next. On the 5th day, Mia finally texted, "Can we talk? Meet me at the pool tonight." Ellie's heart leapt, a mix of hope and dread flooding her veins. She didn't know what Mia would say, but the fact that she wanted to meet, that she'd chosen their place, felt like a lifeline. The pool was quiet that evening, the air cool and thick with the scent of chlorine and wet grass. Mia was already there, sitting on the edge, her feet in the water, her silhouette soft against the twilight. Ellie's breath caught at the sight of her, beautiful, familiar, and yet somehow different now, like a song she knew by heart but couldn't quite sing. "Hey," Ellie said, sitting beside her, her voice barely above a whisper. "Hey," Mia replied, her eyes on the water. For a moment they just sat there, the silence between them heavy but not uncomfortable. Ellie wanted to reach for her hand to bridge the gap, but she held back, waiting. "I've been thinking a lot," Mia said finally, her voice steady but soft. "About what you said. About us." Ellie's heart pounded, her hands clenching in her lap. "And?" Mia turned to her, her eyes bright with emotion. "I was surprised, Elle. I mean, I knew we were close, but I didn't see this. Not the way you do." She paused, her brow furrowing. "But the thing is, I've been thinking about you differently since you told me. Like, maybe I've been blind to something that was always there." Ellie's breath hitched, hope flaring in her chest. "What are you saying?" Mia smiled, a small tentative curve of her lips. "I'm saying I don't know exactly what I feel yet. But I know I care about you. More than I've ever cared about anyone. And I'm not scared of what that might mean." Ellie's eyes stung with tears, relief and joy crashing over her like a wave. "You mean you might feel the same?" Mia reached for her hand, her fingers warm and sure. "I mean, I want to figure it out. With you. If you're willing to be patient with me." Ellie laughed, a shaky, tearful sound, and squeezed Mia's hand. "I've been patient for years, Mia. I can wait a little longer." They sat there, hands entwined, the water lapping at their feet, and for the first time in days, Ellie felt like she could breathe. It wasn't a fairy tale ending. Not a perfect declaration of love, but it was real. It was honest. And it was enough. As they talked, the stars came out, reflected in the pool's surface like a promise. Ellie told Mia about Lila, about the way she pushed her to be brave, and Mia listened, her eyes wide with surprise. "She sounds like she was sent here or something," Mia said, half laughing. "Like some weird guardian angel." Ellie smiled. thinking of Lila's sharp gaze, her cryptic words. Yeah, something like that. Weeks later, Ellie and Mia returned to the pool, their hands brushing as they walked, a new kind of closeness between them. Lila was gone, her brief presence in their lives a mystery that neither of them fully understood. But her impact lingered, a reminder that sometimes, a stranger's push is all it takes to change everything. As they dove into the water, laughing and splashing like they had 100 times before, Ellie felt a quiet certainty settle in her heart. Love wasn't easy and it wasn't perfect, but it was worth the risk. And with Mia by her side, figuring it out one day at a time, Ellie knew she'd found something worth fighting for. A love that was messy, real, and beautifully human.